I hardly recognized the woman in the boutique mirror. The dress wasn't the fluffy princess kind. Sleek satin hugged my waist, a whisper of tulle drifting behind me like morning mist over the bayou. For a breath, I looked like a woman who believed in forever. Mama Joy appeared over my shoulder, her hands warm as she settled the jeweled comb at my crown. "Nia," she murmured, voice trembling with pride. "Baby, you look like the prayer your Grandma Lee used to pray." The words tugged on every thread of me. I saw myself at 9, parading around in pillowcases and costume beads, declaring to my cousins I'd marry a good man and build a big life. For 3 years Malik Jordan had played the part perfectly. Steady smile, quick laugh, never late to Sunday dinner, always respectful, always bringing peach roses for Mama Joy and a firm handshake for my daddy, Mr. Carter. To them he was the dream. To me, he had promised the kind of love that made a heart feel held. The fitter knelt, pinning the hem. "Tomorrow's your day in New Orleans," Mama whispered. I pressed my palm to my sternum, willing the thundering inside me to be joy. "Please like, subscribe, and tell me where you're watching from." We drove home with the windows cracked, jasmine and street brass floating through Treme like a blessing. Mama ticked through every list as if she were running a parade. Second line band booked, gumbo warming at Ms. Batiste's, reception space set for 60, favors tied with gold ribbon. And the honeymoon, she teased. Malik had kept that secret, said it would be unforgettable. I'd loved that word, rolled it around my mouth like candy. New Orleans already hummed with talk. The Carters and the Jordans, 2 families finally joined. Neighbors waved as we passed, and still, beneath the sugar and brass, a ripple of unease slid through me. Nothing had gone wrong. Everything gleamed. Too smooth, my mind whispered. Too easy to be true. I laughed it off a little too loud. Every bride gets jittery, right? Back in my room, I hung the gown carefully and touched the cool sheen once more. Tomorrow it would carry me down the aisle. Mama folded towels into the cedar chest Grandma left me. "You ready for the life, baby?" Malik and I planned it all. I said kids someday, his place for now, bigger later. Daddy had arranged something too. The deed to Grandma's shotgun house transferred to me. Hearing it out loud, the house in my name, the remodeled kitchen Daddy had sunk his overtime into, the community council seat he'd lined up for Malik through a friend, made something twist in my gut. "Mama, I don't care about any of that," I said, perching on the bed's edge. "I care that he loves me." The sentence was sweet as syrup, and the second it left my lips, doubt pricked sharp. Little moments flashed. Malik sliding his phone away when I walked in, taking hours to return a call, those late nights with the fellas, the way he never said, "I love you" first, only after I'd offered it up like a plate he couldn't refuse. He'd grin and call me Morning Star like the nickname could stand in for truth. I shook off the memory. He proposed, didn't he? He planned the wedding. Tomorrow he'd stand with me in front of God and everybody. Still, the flutter wouldn't loosen its grip. Maybe this was simply the ritual. Shaky hands, wakeful eyes, a stomach full of birds. The phone rang. "Hey, Morning Star." His voice poured over me, smooth and warm. "You like the dress? It's perfect. Tomorrow we make it forever," he said. For a while, I let myself believe him. Belief didn't hold. After we hung up, the need to see him pulsed like a drum. "Half an hour," I told Mama, tugging on a jean jacket. The night outside was soft and damp, the city humming, streetcars clanging, a trumpet wailing somewhere far off. Neighbors called blessings for tomorrow. I smiled like I belonged to that light. Malik's building was newly painted. A lazy orange tabby sprawled in the downstairs window, paw twitching in a dream. I lifted my hand to knock. His voice floated through the cheap wood. "Ma, relax. It's handled." His mother's tone trembled. "Handled? Malik, are you sure about Nia?" I waited for laughter, for him to hush her with love. He chuckled instead, easy, careless. "Nia's like family. Comfortable. She's safe." My stomach lurched. "Do you love her?" Ms. Jordan pressed. His reply landed like a blade. "Love's a story folks tell themselves. In real life, You make smart moves. A deeper voice, his father's, rolled in approving. Carter's got sway on the council. Doors open. That old house in her name? That's wealth. Malik's voice dipped. And Renee Caldwell's back. You know her. With her I get fire. With Nia I get foundation. Both worlds. My knuckles went numb against the door. Renee. The name hissed through me like steam, a girl from high school with a smile that dared the sun to compete. He kept talking, meeting her early, before the ceremony, to set terms. That was enough. My body moved before my mind caught up. Heels loud on the steps, breath clawing, eyes hot. I hit the street and walked without seeing, past porches where couples laughed and clinked glasses, past murals of saints and saxophones. By the time I stumbled into my room, the gown glowed in the half-open closet like a mocking moon. You all right, baby? Mama called from the hall. Just tired. I lied, sliding the lock. The house exhaled quiet. Inside me, a storm raged. I lay flat and watched the ceiling ripple while 3 years paraded past with ugly clarity, Malik meeting my folks too fast, asking little questions about Daddy's committee work, about the house, about who knew whom, me mistaking his attention for tenderness. How had I built a whole castle off wishful thinking? My choices closed in like walls. I could swallow this and walk down that aisle anyway, keep my parents' pride glossy, keep the neighbors' mouths soft. Or I could break it all open and save myself. Near midnight, I pushed myself up. The mirror showed a stranger, swollen eyes, lips chapped from worry, but somewhere behind the ruin a stubborn spark. Worth more than a bargain struck in whispers. By 4 I was packing. Passport. A zipped pouch of cash I'd set aside for honeymoon surprises. 2 dresses, my grandmother's cross. A note, hands shaking. Mama, Daddy, please forgive me. I can't explain everything now. I can't marry Malik. I love you.
Nia.
I placed it on the pillow, smoothed the quilt the way Mama taught me, and stood in the doorway of my childhood room for a long time, letting the ache throb. The sky outside was bruised purple when I slipped onto the porch. My bag felt heavier with each step. The city yawned awake, delivery trucks groaning, a sleepy jogger nodding hello without seeing me. The bus station smelled like burnt coffee, diesel, and 2 bright lights. 1 ticket to Chicago. I whispered to the attendant. He slid the stub across without asking why my hands trembled. Departure. 8:10 a.m. 2 hours for Malik to meet Renee. 2 hours for my parents to find a crumpled confession on an empty bed. My stomach rolled. I went outside to breathe. I called Tori. She answered thick with sleep. Girl? It's not even. There's no wedding, I blurted. Silence cracked. Nia, what? Don't tell me to come back. Just tell my parents I'm safe. Tell them I can't do it. Did he hurt you? Her voice sharpened. I can't explain now. My throat tightened. Please. I hung up before she could stitch me to a promise. Guilt washed over me in hot waves. Mama's hands empty at the altar. Daddy's jaw clenched against humiliation. The cousins in their pressed outfits. The band waiting to blow the roof off a party that wouldn't happen. After everything my parents built with tired hands and faith, I was the match lighting it all on fire. But staying would be worse. Vowing forever to a man who counted me like a column on a ledger, who planned to feed passion elsewhere while feeding off my family's good name. That would be the real betrayal. When the bus doors hissed open, I climbed aboard with my heart pounding in my ears. The vinyl seat was cold, the windows smeared with fingerprints. New Orleans slid away, cypress and color melting into highway gray. I pressed my forehead to the glass and tried not to cry. Halfway up the interstate, my phone pulsed with Tori's name. They found the note at 7, she said, breathless. Your mama couldn't finish a sentence. Your daddy almost called the police till I told him you were headed north. I bit my lip till I tasted copper. The guests. They're arriving. Malik's telling people you're sick. Her voice dropped. Folks are whispering Nia. They're saying you ran. The word landed like a gavel. Some say you got cold feet. Some say you learned something you couldn't ignore. A pause. Your daddy keeps saying, my girl wouldn't do this without a reason. I pictured the room, a wall of flowers, the brass band waiting, chairs filled with faces I'd known since kindergarten. My parents standing battered at the front with only a note to offer. Malik, pale under all that swagger, pretending this was a hiccup instead of a truth. Shame and relief wrestled inside me. Let them whisper, I said, the words small but steady. Better a scandal than a lie. The bus lurched into Chicago just after noon, the skyline sharp like teeth against a pale sky. The station was a storm of strangers. I followed a flyer to a room for rent and handed over cash to a woman in a faded robe. My new world was one narrow bed, a wobbly dresser, a drafty window overlooking a brick wall, and a radiator that rattled like it had a secret. It wasn't the life I'd been promised. It was mine. That first night, I lay stiff, listening to the city's metal heartbeat. Morning came with no plan and no net. My resume had Daddy's office stamped all over it, answering phones, filing, event flyers, assistant handed to me by blood. Out here, nobody cared who my father knew. I grabbed a free weekly from a cafe and circled listings I barely understood. Every job wanted experience I didn't have. My honeymoon fund dwindled in my mind with every ad I couldn't fill. At a dingy internet cafe, a teenager with chipped nail polish showed me how to build a resume online and set up job alerts. I typed like I was learning to hold a new kind of breath. Client coordination, I wrote, remembering church gala spreadsheets. Vendor relations, thinking of Ms. Batiste's stubborn florist. I hit send on application after application until my palms slicked. By evening, my eyes ached and my stomach roared. I ate a dollar slice by the window and told the brick wall I was not going home. 2 days later, my prepaid phone rang. This is Klein and Moore, a crisp voice said. We reviewed your application. Can you come tomorrow? My heart thumped. Yes. The next morning, I stood below a glass tower, knees pleading for mercy. The lobby smelled like lemon and money. In the elevator, my reflection looked braver than I felt. Cheap blazer steamed flat, hair slicked into a bun, concealer painting over sleepless nights. A woman in navy ushered me into a conference room cold enough to keep meat. Tell me about your experience, she said, pen hovering. I told the truth and stretched it like taffy, coordinating events, smoothing crises, handling tense conversations. I didn't mention that most of it was church and family. I met her eyes even when my hands trembled beneath the table. When she finally nodded, my lungs remembered how to work. We'll start you on a 3-month probation, she said. Modest pay. If you prove yourself, there's growth. I can start Monday, I said, too quickly. On the street outside, the wind cut sharp. Still, the sun felt different, brighter at the edges. It wasn't triumph. It was a door. I bought myself a greasy sandwich to celebrate. I ate it like a promise. The first weeks at Klein, and more gnawed at me. Every email felt like a test I might fail, every meeting a tightrope strung over all my old doubts. I learned the copy machine's temper, the way clients' voices changed when they were about to lie, the art of a calendar nobody could argue with. Slowly, the tremor in my hands eased. At the end of month 3, my supervisor shook my hand. Welcome to the team, Miss Carter. Pride came quiet and clean, like a glass of cold water. It didn't last long. The receptionist's voice crackled through my desk phone.
Nia?
There's a man here asking for you. I stepped into the hall and stopped dead. Malik stood in his press suit, thinner, eyes tired, a bouquet of white lilies, Mama's favorite, not mine. Nia, he said, soft and church quiet, as if we were still in us. I had to see you. My chest tried to fold in on itself. He'd found me.
How?
Your dad, he said. He finally told me. He followed me into an empty conference room and set the flowers between us like bait. I was a fool, he began. I said trash I didn't mean. You leaving woke me up. I love you. Stop, I said, calm as a blade. I heard you. He blinked. What? That night. Through your door. The color drained from his face. I heard you say I was safe. Comfortable. I heard you call love a fairy tale. I heard you say you'd meet Renee at sunrise the day I was supposed to vow myself to you. He swallowed. Nia, you also said my daddy's seat could open doors for you. You counted my grandmother's house like it belonged to you. My voice didn't shake. You didn't lose me because of one mistake. You lost me because you never saw me. Not really. He leaned in, eyes glossy with desperation. I thought I could have both and keep us whole. I swear I get it now. It's you. No, I said, a softness in my refusal that surprised me. It's you who wants a life you didn't build. I want something else. We sat in the hum of recycled air, the lilies between us already browning at the edges. For the first time, he looked small, shrunk by his own choices. After he left, I stood at the window until my reflection steadied. When I turned, Dion from Strategy was waiting with 2 coffees. Dion didn't bring speeches or flowers or apologies that arrived too late. He offered a paper cup and a half smile. You look like you fought a hurricane, he said. I let out a shaky laugh. We walked to a cafe that smelled like cinnamon and ink. He asked about my presentation and meant it. He listened as I tripped through what had just happened with Malik without interrupting, without making it about himself. He told me about his grandmother in Bronzeville and the way she kept a stack of prayer cloths like armor. We missed our lunch hour together and didn't notice until my phone chimed. When we stood to go, he didn't try to touch me. He just said, "You don't owe anyone a version of you that hurts." At my desk, Malik's shadow had finally stopped stretching across my day. Weeks slid into months. Dion and I became easy, shared playlists, traded recipes, laughed at the office Slack like we were in on some secret. He didn't ask for a future. He asked how my morning was. He didn't ask what my father owned. He asked what I wanted. The answers grew louder in my mouth. The city outside thawed. My chest did too. A year later, Mama's birthday pulled me south. The train rocked me through fields and small towns, past water dark as molasses and signs pointing to places I knew by smell. My stomach nodded anyway. New Orleans was still a stage where I'd bared my worst day. On the platform, Mama Joyce spotted me and sobbed before I could set my bag down. Daddy hugged me like somebody might try to steal me away. Forgiveness sat between us like a quilt, mended, warm, still showing a seam or two. The house smelled like red beans and Sunday. Aunties, cousins, neighbors filled the kitchen, their eyes soft with a new kind of respect I didn't recognize at first. It wasn't for scandal. It was for survival. They whispered, but the words glanced off me now. I had built a life with my own unsteady hands and felt the weight of it in my bones. The next afternoon, I ducked into a quiet cafe off Rampart for a beignet. Powdered sugar dusted my black tea like ash from a miracle. That's when I saw him, Malik, standing at the counter, fingers laced with Renee's. A simple gold band flashed on her hand. They looked settled. Not a firestorm. A hearth. He saw me. A flicker crossed his face. Shame, maybe, or the memory of who he once pretended to be. Nia, he said. Renee's gaze sharpened, protective by instinct. I nodded. Malik. Renee. My voice surprised me, steadiest it had ever been in his presence. He introduced her as his wife. She offered her hand, and I took it. Congratulations, I said. Truly. And I meant it, simple as bread. The bitterness I'd carried like a talisman had dissolved into something clean. What happened between us was a closed chapter that no longer burned my fingers to touch. We slid past each other and out into sun. The brass from the corner drifted like laughter. My chest felt lighter. A door unlatched. That evening, Mama pulled a peach cobbler from the oven, the whole house smelling like warm sugar and childhood. We ate at the table where I'd once traced the grain with a crayon. Daddy asked about Chicago. I told him about early trains and late nights, about the first time my supervisor said, "Good work," and it felt like a stamp on my soul. He squeezed my hand without words. We had all learned something hard and holy. Back in my old room, the unworn dress still hung in the closet, a ghost in satin. Once it had been the whole dream, proof somebody had chosen me. Now it was just fabric. The real garment was the life I'd stitched from panic and grit. A rented room turned apartment, a probation turned job, a girl who ran turned woman who chose. I thought about the night I left, the way people said, ran away like it was shameful. Let them. I knew better. I hadn't run from responsibility. I'd run toward truth. The next morning I walked the block with Mama, her arm looped through mine. Ms. Baptiste waved from her porch and pressed a paper sack into my hands, beignet dusted like snow. You look happy, she said, like it was a blessing she'd been saving. I am, I answered, surprised by the ease of it. When it was time to return north, I hugged my parents long. Daddy whispered, proud of you, girl. Not for leaving. For living. On the train, fields blurred into mirrors of sky. I watched myself in the window glass, a woman whose reflection no longer startled her. New Orleans would always be a route. Chicago had become a wing. The train slid into the city at golden hour, the skyline washed in honey. My key turned smooth in my apartment door. The place smelled like coffee grounds and citrus cleaner. Second-hand couch. Thrifted bookshelf. A watercolor I'd bargained for at a street fair. Everything there was mine because I'd chosen it, not because someone handed it to me in exchange for my silence. Dion came over with takeout and a six-pack of ginger beer. He didn't try to dazzle. He asked how my mama liked her gift and laughed when I described Auntie Glow's off-key happy birthday. We ate on the couch, shoulder to shoulder, as the city blinked on outside. When he reached for my hand, I let him have it. Not because he'd earned it by being persistent, not because he'd bought me a promise. Because I wanted to. Later, I stood at the window and watched the streetlights paint the sidewalk into squares. My reflection looked calm. I thought of the girl in lace, the girl in sneakers at the bus station, the girl on the glass elevator willing her knees not to fold. They were all me. And I was still here. That felt like the most extravagant love. People might keep the story alive. Nia Carter, the bride who didn't show. Let them tell it like a cautionary tale or a punchline. I know the truth. I'm the woman who chose not to live a lie. The night air slid in through the cracked window, Chicago humming, a lullaby of sirens and strangers. I climbed into bed and thought about revenge, the kind I'd wanted when my heart was ragged. I didn't need it anymore. Living well was the only answer that didn't poison me. Choosing love that wasn't a ledger, work that wasn't a performance, a future that wasn't a bribe, that was the only vengeance I wanted. In the morning, I'd catch an early train, hand in my deck for the noon meeting, text Mama a picture of the lake. I'd meet Dion after work at the little spot on the corner where they know my name now. The dress in New Orleans would keep hanging there, quiet as a retired storm. The real ceremony happened the night I stepped into the dawn with a bag and a note. I promised myself I would not marry my own erasure. I kept that vow. And because of it, my life is finally, blessedly mine. Thank you for watching. Please like, drop a comment, and subscribe for more stories like this.